لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. لا حول ولا قوة. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وكشف الغمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده وتركنا على المحجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك. فصلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن سار على نهجهم واقتدى بسنتهم وهديهم إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. My dear respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are still continuing our series entitled Immigration and Integration, Al-Hijrah wal-Indimaj. And we are trying to cover in this series the most important strategic work of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions over the course of 10 years in the Medina. The work in building the Muslim community identity. The work in integrating in all aspects of life. And how the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was interacting with all the different groups of the Medina society, Muslims and non-Muslims, while he balanced the preservation of Islamic identity, al-hifadh ala al-hawiyya al-islamiyya, and citizenship. My dear respected brothers and sisters, today inshallah ta'ala we will cover the 10th strategic project, the final project from that series, the 10th strategic project that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam he carried out as a cornerstone in building the social identity of the Muslim community upon his arrival to the Medina. This project is the family reform, al-islah al-a'il, the family reform. If you recall in the previous khutbahs from that series, blessed series, we covered two projects that the Prophet ﷺ executed in the Medina in building the community, community social identity. They were the brotherhood, al-mu'akha. It was part of the social, building the social identity, and also ordering what is right and forbid the wrongdoing, al-amr al-ma'ruf wa nahy al-munkar, which was also part of that sector. So the family reform is this. Our subject today is considered the third project related to that field. 3 strategic projects out of 10. 3 strategic projects out of the 10 projects that the Prophet ﷺ executed in the Medina. All of them, they were in building the community social identity dimension. You're talking about like 30%. So that shows us the importance of the social sector in Islam. In these few minutes, inshallah, we will try to discover the methodology of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he used in building and nurturing the family in Islam, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided us in the Quran. And to cover this subject, inshallah, I will divide it into two sections. The first one, I will talk about the importance of family in Islam. Then the second one, I will talk about the methodology of our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in building and nurturing the family in Islam using Surah Al-Baqarah, as it is one of the first surahs that revealed on Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So it put like a draft plan for the Prophet how to do the initial structure. Then after that, more surah came to elaborate more in strengthening that structure. But it's good to see the blueprint, the first draft that the Prophet ﷺ from day one, how he put for the Sahaba. So let's start first with the first part, the importance of family in Islam. Why the family is important in Islam. The family is the first building block of the community. And in other words, the community is just a collection of families that are bound together. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا. That all humanity, indeed we created you from male and female, and we made you into peoples and tribes so that you may get to know one another. So as you see over here, the basis of formation of the family, community, and even the whole humanity is defined by Allah Almighty in the Quran. Our constitution is of couple, male and female, not as some people they are trying to redefine it today. The family in Islam, it starts with the spouses of male and female, but then it includes the children, and then it extends to a bigger family format, which includes the parents, which is the grandfather and grandmothers, uncles, aunts, and other relatives. So that's the bigger format of the family. The strength and the weakness of the society are measured by the extent of the family unity within that society. And therefore, the weakening and dismantling the family unity is a threat to any society, and its continuity. The building of Islamic Ummah in Islam is only achieved by building a cohesive family. And we saw together in this series how Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the previous khutbah, how Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was from the first minute that he arrived to the Medina, his concern and his primary focus was to build a Muslim community identity, which is considered like a big community, I call it incubator, for preserving the individual Muslim identity. In Islam, the family is considered like the first small and primary incubator in which the individual receives his beliefs and values. And I will give you a proof over here about the beliefs and values, how it's affected by the family. And the family, it has a great influence on the person's religious and worldly behavior. As narrated on Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu ardah, when he narrated on Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, كل مولود يولد على الفطرة فأبواه يهودانه أو يمجسانه أو ينصرانه. That everyone is born on pure faith, fitra, which is Islam. And based on his parents' belief, he will become a Jew, Christians, or Majusi. Which it means that the parents, as a family, they had a great influence on the kids' religion. So that's from religious perspective, how the family has an effect on the kids regarding the religion. What about the attitude? The family, also, it's the first place where the child absorbs the passion, al-atifa, containment, al-ihtiwa, and belongings, al-intima. And based on the family stability in delivering those items, you will have either a children who are balanced in their emotions and thoughts, or children who are destructive and seek revenge from the family structure initially and the society in general due to the bad experience that they lived in that family. What we see today from the decay of morals, ideas, and values to destroy the family, and even contrary to the human instinct that we used to know, or we know, one of its main reasons, it has a lot of reasons, but one of its main reasons that I think it's referred to, it could be the family disintegration that the society has experienced for decades through legalization, adultery, and under different names. And I think the boyfriend and girlfriend is a form of that. These relations resulted to illegitimate children who came out hateful to the society and the concept even of the family. And because all they experience from the beginning of their life is a broken, unstable family. So the importance of the family in Islam is that it preserves the offspring, النسل والعرض, which is considered one of the 5 necessities in Islam, الضرورات الخمس, that Islam came actually to reserve and to put even the bylaws to preserve that. Also the family in Islam, it is a way to satisfy the innate sexual desire in halal way, يعني إشباع الرغبة الجنسية الفطرية بالحلال. Also the family in Islam, it fulfills the meanings of the social solidarity where the Prophet ﷺ, he used it efficiently, if you recall, especially the tribal format, which is a big format of the family, when he wrote the Medina's document, if you recall, in a way to distribute the financial responsibilities in the Medina and society. So part of the responsibility in Islam, they put it not only on the individual, they use the family and even the tribe to help that person to go outside from that specific problem. So for all these reasons, you see, the family in Islam is essential. And therefore the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he gives a special care since his arrival to the Medina in building a cohesive family. And we won't be surprised to know that one of the first hadith that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned upon his arrival to the Medina, what Abdullah ibn Salam narrated, that he said, إنه لما قدم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم المدينة كان أول شيء سمعته منه أنه تكلم به قال يا أيها الناس أفشوا السلام وأطعموا الطعام وصلوا الأرحام وصلوا بالليل والناس نيام تدخلوا الجنة بسلام. That all people spread peace, feed food, connect with your relatives, and pray at night while the people are sleeping. So connect with your relatives. You will enter the Jannah peacefully. Later, after that, a lot of ayat from the Quran, a lot of hadith from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all of them were focusing on strengthening the family ties with the parents, with spouse, with kids, and with kinship. And all these ayat and hadith, all of them, they are trying by putting clear guidelines in developing and maintaining these type of relations, healthy relations, and also at the same time encouraging the people to do that with the high rewards in the paradise. In Islam, the family relation, it will not end by the lifetime that we have in the dunya. In Islam, the family relation, it continues and beneficial in the hereafter, especially in raising the degrees in the Jannah. وَأَلْحَقْنَا بِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ. That even the parents, even their kids, they will be raised to the level of the parents in the Jannah. The parents, for example, they will be protected by their kids. Man kana lahu ibnatan, who have 2 kids, daughter, and he raised them properly, it will protect him from the hellfire. A lot of hadith is talking about that type of relationship, which is extend even beyond the death, and its fruits actually in the hereafter. All that to strengthen that type of relationship and to feel that it's continuous to the hereafter. My dear respected brothers and sisters, now let's move to the second part and explore the methodology of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he used in building and nurturing the family in Islam, especially at the first few days. First, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he started by encouraging the Muslims, especially the youth, to marry the minute that they could fulfill all marriage responsibilities as a spouse, as narrated on Abdullah ibn Mas'ud when he said, قال لنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يا معشر الشباب من استطاع منكم الباءة فليتزوج فإنه أغض للبصر وأحصن للفرج ومن لم يستطع فعليه بالصوم فإنه له وجاء. فليتزوج الفاء تفيد التتابع والسرعة. The fa, that means you have to do it immediately, the minute that you get it. So the hadith meanings of it, that the Prophet ﷺ said, O young people, O youth, whoever among you is able to fulfill the marriage responsibility, let him do it. Let him do it like immediately. So we learn from this hadith that delaying the marriage when you already can fulfill its responsibility is not part of the Prophet ﷺ sunnah. This is different from the Prophet ﷺ sunnah. Unfortunately, the trend nowadays among the young Muslim generation is the opposite of the Prophet ﷺ sunnah. They delay it. Even they have work and they have all the ability to open a house. So please, leave the trend and follow your Prophet's sunnah, because this is better for you in the dunya and the hereafter. Also, there is no, what do you call it, rahbaniyah fil Islam, which is no monasticism in Islam. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he denied the action of 3 people who came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam house asking about his worship. So one of them, he said, I would fast all the days of the year. Another, he said that I would make a qiyam for the whole nights in the year. And the third, he said, I will not marry. I will not marry and dedicate all my life to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala worship, like the priest. So what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, commenting on that, after he heard that, he said, أنا أعلمكم بالله وأخشاكم له ولكني أقوم وأنام وأصوم وأفطر وأتزوج النساء فمن رغب عن سنتي فليس مني. That I am more knowledgeable in Allah and fearful from Allah from all of you. This is the saying of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. From all of you. But I pray and sleep, fast and eat, and I marry women, and whoever does not follow my sunnah is not from me. Not from me. One of the first surahs that revealed, as I mentioned, on the day that the Prophet ﷺ arrived to the Medina, is Surah Al-Baqarah, and it covered many of the bylaws in Islam, and part of that, it shows the initial outlines that the Prophet ﷺ, he followed in building and nurturing the Muslim family in a balanced way. So to simplify my approach and my covering to Surah Al-Baqarah, the guidelines, I will divide it to 3 sectors. Some of the ayat talked about the things before marriage. What are the things to do before marriage? And other ayat talked about the things to do after you get married. And the third ayat, some ayat talked about matters related to termination of marriage. So I divided to these 3 sectors. So let's start with the things that the ayat in Surah Al-Baqarah talked about, the things that we need to do before marriage to sustain the marriage. Before marriage, it talked about 3 points. The first one is the good selection criteria. Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned in the Quran, وَلَا تُنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنْ وَلَا أَمَةٌ مُؤْمِنَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن مُشْرِكَةٍ وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَتْكُمْ وَلَا تُنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكِينَ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنُوا وَلَعَبْدٌ مُؤْمِنٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن مُشْرِكٍ وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَكُمْ. The meaning of the ayat in the Surah Al-Baqarah means that the general meaning of the ayat, that if that it orders the Muslims, men, not to marry mushrik woman or polytheistic woman until they believe. And also for the Muslim woman not to marry the polytheistic man until they believe. So as you see over here, the building a process for the family in Islam, it comes before the marriage, way before the marriage. Even one of the primary rights of the children on their parents, حقوق الأبناء على الآباء, starts before the marriage by selecting the right spouse. So this is part of their rights, to select the right spouse. Whether the female select the right husband or the husband select the right wife. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, based on that, he gave us some guidelines how to select your partner. So he gave 2 hadith. One of the hadith talking about how to select the woman, the criteria. He put the selection criteria for the following in the following 2 hadith. Regarding the woman, عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم تنكح المرأة لأربع لمالها ولحسبها ولجمالها ولدينها فاظفر بذات الدين تربت يداك. It means that in this hadith that the woman could be married due to 4 criteria: her money, her family, beauty, and religion. So focus on the religion criteria as you will be the winner. The meaning of this hadith, it does not mean that you focus on the religion and leave the other criteria. No, take the other criteria, but make sure if it's limited to 1 criteria, make sure that religion is there all the time. Even if you have 2 criteria, one of them should be religion. 3, one of them religion. The best standing is to get the 4 of them. So that's the criteria regarding the woman to select your future wife. What about selecting your future husband? There is another hadith related to that criteria of selecting the right man. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا خطب إليكم من ترضون دينه وخلقه. Two things. دينه وخلقه فزوجوه إلا تفعلوا تكن فتنة في الأرض وفساد عريض. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم in this hadith said, if a man comes to you asking for a marriage and you are satisfied with his religion and morals, two things, religion and morals, accept him. Islam in this hadith showed us that there are two main calibers to focus on in selecting the future partner from the men, which is the good belief and morals. And if you notice that the Prophet ﷺ, he differentiated between the good belief and good morals, because you could see some believers who had unfortunately bad attitudes. Even the Sahaba, they had that. Some of the bad attitudes, for example, being angry, غضب, or hitting, or some people they hit immediately after. This is a bad attitude. Being miserly, this is a bad attitude. And even the Sahaba, they used to come and ask the Prophet ﷺ, he said, ذاك الرجل لا يضع العصا عن ظهره, that he used to be. So and he's a Sahabi. So the moral is different than the belief. So you need to select good morals and good belief. Also, you can see some people who have good morals but weak beliefs. So it would be the best to verify both these criteria before accepting your partner. And I consider these two crucials, especially in the men, two crucials in three things. In continuing and strengthening the relations between the two partners, it will help a lot if the person has that two criteria. Also, it could be a solid reference point that the partners, they could refer to it in solving the future dispute or problems among them. Especially now when we are getting married from different cultures. So what is the reference point? Your culture or my culture? You should have a reference point, which is the Quran and the Sunnah, especially in the dispute. You need that badly. And the third thing, beside, it's a safety net. It's a safety net when the two parties, la qaddar Allah, they want to break up, at-talaq. Break up could be executed in a complete respect and with the least damages to the family members, the spouses and the children, because they have the good belief and the morals. The partners, they have the good belief and morals that guided them to achieve what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded us in the Quran. فَتَسْرِيحٌ بِإِحْسَانٍ. تَسْرِيحٌ بِإِحْسَانٍ means the good form of talaq. And that type of achievement, it could not be achieved with most of the courts. They could not achieve that. Now the second thing also, before the marriage, is entering homes from its doors. Another ayah in the Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَأْتُوا الْبُيُوتَ مِنْ أَبْوَابِهَا. Enter homes through their proper doors. It's an indication over here for the youth to initiate that type of relations through a proper channels, and not to make meetings secretly from the parents until they know and they approve each other. Then later they inform their parents. It shouldn't be like that. In Islam, we have something called Khutbah, and it has the regulations and it has its own ethics. And that is different from the engagement, from Katb al-Kitab or the marriage stage. And the third thing is choice with the free will for both parties, without any pressure from the parents, especially the parents on the woman. They put a lot on their kids, their child, the female. They put a lot of pressure on them. So without any pressure, this is what we commanded in the Quran. And they are the ones who are getting married and not their parents. And they will be responsible for their decision. Now let's go to the second sector, which is the things that we do when we get married, after marriage. The Quran in the Surah Al-Baqarah talked about two things. And the first one, which is the companionship with kindness, al-mu'ashara bil-ma'ruf. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ وَاللَّهُ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. That the woman have rights similar to those of men, equitable, although men have a degree of responsibility above them. Al-mu'ashara bil-ma'ruf, companionship with kindness, it means that each partner has a specific role, rights, and duties, and they should execute these roles and duties with kindness, respect, affection, and appreciation. يعني باللطف والاحترام والمودة والتقدير to the other partner. And that, by doing that, this will bring what we call the love and tranquility to the family. And this is the right translation for وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. This is how we bring mawadda wa rahmah inside our homes. By knowing, first of all, the specific roles and rights and duties for each party, and to execute these things with kindness, with respect, with affection and appreciation to the other party. So that will bring the tranquility, wal-mawadda wal-ihsan. Also another ayah mentioned part of al-mu'ashara bil-ma'ruf, another aspect of it, هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُنْ, which means that your spouse are a garment for you and you are for them. It means that the spouse should cover each other's faults and secrets. Each other's faults and secrets. Even after talaq, la qaddar Allah, you should keep that secrets. يَسْتُرُ سَقَطَاتُ وَأَصْغَارَ بَعْضِهِمُ الْبَعْضِ. Now that's the first part, which is عَاشِرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, and how we apply it. The second point regarding the things to do after marriage is the religious and worldly care, الرعاية الدينية والدنيوية, from the parents to their kids and even to each other. Regarding the religious care, we can see it clearly in what Ibrahim alayhi salam, he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make the prophethood in his offspring, when he said, قال الله تعالى إني جاعلك للناس إماما قال ومن ذريتي. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Ibrahim that I will certainly make you a role model for people, which is a prophet. Immediately, Ibrahim alayhi salam, he said, and what about my offspring? So he was thinking about his grandchildren. This is why we call him, he is the father of Anbiya. All of his offsprings came from them, the Anbiya. It shows over here the importance of the parents to focus on the children religious care. It's not only feeding only. The other part, which is the worldly care, and I believe all the parents, they are doing it in a very good way. And we can see it clearly in the other ayah, وَالْوَالِدَاتُ يُرْضِعْنَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ حَوْلَيْنِ كَامِلَيْنِ لِمَنْ أَرَادَ أَنْ يُتِمَّ الرَّضَاعَةَ وَعَلَى الْمَوْلُودِ لَهُ كِسْوَتُهُنَّ وَالْمَعْرُوفِ. This is another ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah. It's talking about that concept, which is the worldly care. The ayah talk about that the parents, worldly care for their children, such as the breastfeeding for the kids for 2 years. Also the father is to provide the mother and the children with all that they need from clothing and maintenance. So now let's reach to the final point, which is the matter related to the termination of marriage. The termination of marriage, it happens in 2 ways, as mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah. The first one is the death of one of the spouses. And the surah talked about the regulations regarding the time to wait before getting married from another person if they want. The second thing, which is the divorce, where the surah put some guidelines and even code of conduct in executing that. Even it extended the talking on maintaining a well-respected relationship with the ex-spouse even after the divorce. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, وَلِلْمُطَلَّقَاتِ مَتَاعٌ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ حَقًّا عَلَى الْمُتَّقِينَ, means reasonable provision must be made for divorced women, a duty in those mindful of Allah, لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. So this is why the 2 points, moral and good moral and good belief, you should have it. Otherwise you will not find the people, they will do it if they don't have these 2 elements. Another ayah, وَلَا تَنْسَوُا الْفَضْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ. This is another ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah. And do not, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned over here, do not forget the kindness among yourselves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminded the 2 parties to do that after divorce happen. To do that after divorce. وَلَا تَنْسَوُا الْفَضْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ. So did you see over here, my dear brothers and sisters, why the good belief and the good moral should be core criterion for selecting your future spouse? You need to have these 2 criteria to execute these regulations to the world, to the world during the marriage and even in terminating the marriage. This is how the Prophet ﷺ, and this is how Islam looks to the family. And this is a brief description of the methodology that the Prophet ﷺ he followed as a draft, as initial work in building and nurturing the family in Islam as described in Surah Al-Baqarah. أسأل الله عز وجل أن يحفظ بيوتنا وبيوتكم بالإيمان والتقوى وأن يفقهنا في ديننا ويجعلنا ممن يحيون سنة نبينا صلى الله عليه وسلم في جمع قلوب المسلمين على طاعته ونصرة دينه وممن مرجعهم في كل أمورهم كتاب الله وسنة رسوله. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه فيا فوز المستغفرين. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه ومن سار على نهجه مقتدى بسنته وهديه إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. My dear respected brothers and sisters, as usual I will conclude the subject of my khutbah, which is about the family reform, with a set of lessons learned, recommendations, and even some of the proposed projects related to the topic of the khutbah, in a way to transfer these type of abandoned meanings and sunnah and to move it from the theoretical dimension to the practical reality. It came to my mind three maybe recommendations. The first one, our centers and masajid should focus on educational and social activities that target the family solidarity. In a weekly program such as the family night, it's very crucial. And not just to make it for fun, and also to mention some lectures, and it's for the family, connecting the family together. Parents and children will learn more about the family Islamic values and some of the tools that could help them to face the internal and the external challenges that they have here in Canada. The second thing is for the youth and the newly married couples. I highly recommend to have a type of training programs for them, training courses about the marriage before they become married, or even newly married people, to pass the experience and the matter of experts in the way to have a healthy marriage based on the Quran, the Sunnah, and even best practices and a field of experience. As we see over here now, unfortunately, a lot of high divorce rate between the newly Muslim married couples. So this could help, inshallah, in preventing that. Also, to make a hotline in solving the family issues and consultation run by specialists in that field. Because right now, when they have issues, what they do? They open 911. When you do 911, even in small issues, this will escalate and make the problem much bigger and hard to fix. So it's important to have that type of hotline where we can do that type of solving these issues initially before going to escalate it to another level. أسأل الله عز وجل أن ينفعني وإياكم بسيرة نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأن يجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. اللهم اجعل اجتماعنا هذا اجتماعا مرحوما واجعل تفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما ولا تجعل فينا ولا من بيننا شقيا ولا محروما. اللهم بلغنا رمضان، اللهم بلغنا رمضان، اللهم بلغنا رمضان وعنا على صيامه وقيامه على الوجه الذي يرضيك به عنا. اللهم إنا نتبرأ من حولنا وقوتنا ونلتجئ إلى حولك وقوتك لا إله إلا أنت. اللهم أعنا ولا تعن علينا واهدنا ويسر الهدى لنا وانصرنا ولا تنصر علينا. ربنا اجعلنا لك شكارين لك ذكارين لك أواهين رهابين مخبتين. اللهم تقبل توبتنا واغسل حوبتنا وأجب دعوتنا وسدد لساننا واهد قلوبنا وسل سخيمة صدورنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم إنا نسألك من خير ما سألك منه نبيك وحبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذك منه نبيك وحبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم من أراد للإسلام والمسلمين خيرا فوفقه لكل خير ومن أراد للإسلام والمسلمين شرا فخذه أخذ عزيز مقتدر فإنهم لا يعجزوك. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. وأقم الصلاة.